Wow! What's happening, everybody? Yes, sir. We back. I know y'all couldn't wait for your boy to get back on the air, but we're back. Listen, before we get into the interview, before we talk about anything, do me a favor. Call somebody, text somebody, touch somebody, tell somebody that Let's Talk with Stanley Doucette is on the air right now. We rolling, baby. We live. I can't sing, but hey, it sounds good, at least in my head. We have an incredible, not just podcast, but guest on today. She is exquisite. She a powerhouse. I've been knowing her just about all my life. I'm not going to tell you how long that is because y'all don't need to be in my business like that. But just trust me, we've been knowing each other for, let's just say decades, and it got an S on the end for some of y'all. Y'all will catch that tomorrow. But anywho, to all of my people everywhere logging in, welcome back. I've been looking for your family. I miss you, love you. Where you at? What you doing with your life? For all of my people that's international in different parts of the world, whether you're in Belgium, whether you're in London, whether you're in China, you're in South Africa, South France, South America, wherever you are, sending you love, saying, what's up? How you doing? What do you do? So today's podcast, listen, it's going to be intense. It's going to probably cut somebody throat. And what I mean by cut their throat, it's an imaginary cut. Some of y'all gonna be walking around, it's an imaginary cut. They want, I mean, in this podcast, let me say it this way. I want to make sure that everybody understand something very vital. But a lot of times we walk around it. We don't get into it. We don't talk about it. We just kind of let it all flow and just think it's normal. But we're going to change that today. We're literally going to change that. So before I what would I say, introduce and present to other people our extraordinary guest, I want to do our commercials, brought to you by the commercials. Listen, I'm on one today. I can't wait. I've been waiting for this podcast for about 3 weeks. I can't wait for y'all to meet our guests. But nonetheless, so in terms of all of the commercials, so all of you guys know I'm on all of the podcasts, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube. Listen, do me a favor, y'all. Go subscribe to my YouTube channel. Y'all see my faces and some of the things I'll be looking at and some of these crazy reactions I have. It is priceless. It's priceless. So go check out the YouTube channel. They have some of the past podcasts there as well. So we have a lot of fun with it. So do that for me. If you have an email that you want to send me or suggestions, or you just want to be on the podcast yourself and just kick it with your boy, let's do that. Let's make it happen. Go to Let's Talk with Stanley D at gmail.com. That's LETSTalkwithStanley D as in David at gmail.com. Hit me up. I'm telling you, my email is starting to ring. Maybe I shouldn't be giving y'all my email too much, but it's starting to ring a lot. A lot of suggestions that are out there. Some of them, not so sure about, but some of them actually, they're really good. If you want to join us, you want to be a guest, you want to promote something, just hit me up, let me know, and we'll see what we can do to make that happen. I'll make sure my assistant hit you up and we'll coordinate something and make some things do what it do. All right. So now that we finished all of the wonderful introductions, now, excuse me, on one of the infomercials and commercials and all of that other stuff. So now let me get into our guest. She is actually a licensed therapist at the highest level. She is my girl from way back yonder. We've been doing life for forever. We've had an incredible amount of things we've done together, life, everything in between. But she's actually grown as one of the top therapists in all of Louisiana. She is an amazing person, amazing sister, amazing friend, and all of the things in between. And guys, she's cute too, but I can't tell her that publicly because if I do, her head is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. I don't need that from my sister. So listen, guys, y'all do me a favor and help welcome to the podcast for not the first time, I mean, for the first time, but definitely not the last time, my girl, my sister, Miss Candice. She want to make sure I say that. It's not Candice. She's special. It's Candice Saraparu. Candice, what's up? How you
What's
doing?
up?
Good.
Now, I have to say this before we even get started. Stanley is way older than me. Way.
Wait. So we got jokes already. So that's
But
what
we
we
just have to
doing?
make sure that everybody understands that, right? So we grew up together, but Stanley was a little bit more grown than I was. But yeah,
Oh, so that's what we doing now.
that's what we doing. I know that
Okay.
matters. Every age, every day matters.
See, I
Um,
told y'all I was trying to be nice. I really
oh,
was.
gloves off. Gloves off. So just so
Okay.
you know,
I was
go
trying to
for
be nice, but now we cutting jokes already and early, huh?
it.
See what it's
But
like when you be a big brother, y'all. When y'all there. Matter of fact, let me tell y'all what our podcast is, because this part of my trauma. this part of my trauma. So listen, today we're going to be talking about trauma in the community. That's the topic today. Just trauma in the community. So many things we grew up with, we thought were normal. Yeah, not so much. not so much.
yeah.
Yeah, not so much. So I'm going to open up the floor for Candice to do her thing. So Candice, look, tell the family, who are you? Like, like who is this chick?
Well, you did a great description. I was wondering, wait, what's on my bio that I'm one of the best? But thank you. So, like, professionally, I am a social worker, licensed clinical social worker. I do supervision for social workers to get licensed. I am a social work educator. I am a professor at adjunct professor at Tulane. So I teach students who want to be social workers on how to do this. I have contracts with different agencies that I will not name right now. But yeah, so I'm always doing a lot and for the community.
Let me just say this for people that may not know. She just dropped this university out there, Tulane University. I just want you guys to know she's very humble, modest, all of those other things, very laid back. But Tulane is one of the top institutions in America. Just FYI, and it's a powerful actual social media platform that they not social media social work platform that they have over there for educating individuals that's coming up through that program. So as she just kind of slid that in, let me just say it's a top school. It's a top school. So you're not talking about somebody that don't know anything, but you know she got some stuff going in. So let me say, how did you actually start from the actual social work platform? It just
So I've been doing this, I started when I was 10, so don't try to do math, but I've been doing this for more than 20 years. Right. So if you do that, you can do the math on that. I started when I was 10, but I've been doing this for more than 20 years. Really, most people find their way to social work from a personal place of pain and a personal experience. So it's one of those things that who you are as a person and what you've
mhm.
experienced brings you to this career. And to have longevity in this career, you have to have a heart.
You definitely got to have a heart, especially when you start cracking them jokes. I'm gonna leave you alone right now, but I'm telling you, I'm coming. I'm lining up, and I'm.
So humor is when we're talking about trauma, humor is one of the best coping skills for trauma. If we can
That's
laugh
right.
at our pain, we can endure it. So I'm gonna make jokes the whole time because that's one of my
Wait.
coping
Ding,
skills.
ding, ding. Say that again, because I think when I say ding, 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 the family know. You may not know, but that's a nugget somebody need to write down about when you talk about humor and laughing at your pain. You may be able to endure. So can you share that again, please?
So I'm gonna say it just like I just said it. Humor is one of the best coping skills for trauma because when we can laugh at our pain, we can endure it.
That's deep. That in and of itself. So what is actual trauma? Talk to us. Let's get into this. What
Okay.
is trauma? Talk to us.
So trauma is an experience that just overwhelms the system's ability to cope. It's something outside of what we would consider normal, and you can throw every coping skill you have at it, and it's going to overwhelm your system. And so trauma can be anything. It depends on the person, on what you personally would define as trauma. But we also have some large things that no matter who you are, that's going to be considered traumatic as an experience, right? War, no matter who you are, if you're in a war zone, you're experiencing trauma. Natural disasters. Unfortunately, our community yesterday had tornadoes, and so prayers for the community of St. Bernard Parish. But that is traumatic to be sitting in your house and within seconds the house coming down around you. So there are certain experiences, abuse, sexual abuse, physical abuse. Those are traumatic, regardless of the person. But something as small as those jokes I made earlier could be traumatic to you, depending on your ability to cope.
That's right. They're not, by the way, but
We
you're
know that.
absolutely.
We know you have a great ability to cope. You've been through some things and you got an
Just a
ability to
couple
cope.
things.
Just a couple of things.
When you're saying that and you were talking about trauma, one of the things I started to think about, and as you know, but some of you may or may not know it, in my former life, as I like to call it, I was a police officer. So every single day was trauma for us.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing I want to ask inside of that vein, right? And let's kind of go back. Where did this trauma come from? Like where did it start? Was it just like one day the mom? Was it back further than that, in the 1900s, to 1800s, to 1200s? Where did this actually come from?
So trauma has been noted, and since the beginning of written word, there have been discussions of things that are considered traumatic. So we know trauma has always been part of the human experience. As far as, and trauma and code, it changes our DNA. So when you're, as a community, we experience trauma, our DNA gets coded differently, and our offspring are now naturally coded to be aware of those traumas that we experience. And so just thinking about us as Black people, generationally, we are coded to be aware of trauma and aware of the fact that trauma exists. Whether or not you could have lived a charmed life as a Black person. I don't know where you're living if you lived a charmed life, but it's possible.
Right.
But you would still have that trauma code in your DNA because our ancestors experienced trauma. And that's the beauty of our design, is that when we experience something, our DNA changes so that the next generation is better able to cope with it.
So let's dig a little bit further into that. So let's just say you say our ancestors. So we're talking about going back to Jim Crow law. You're talking about going to
we're talking about slavery, especially for Black people. We're talking about the capture and enslavement of Black people from Africa, bringing them to America, stripping them of their language, stripping them of their ancestry, stripping them of their knowledge of their self. That for us. There's lots of things that we don't necessarily, and you can cut me off, but lots of things we don't think about as Black people that we do. And one of them, in addition to working with trauma, I work in parents and teaching parents to be better parents. I'm a certified parent educator.
There's a such thing as a certified parent educator?
Yes, there is a such thing as a certified parent educator.
Okay, I learned something today.
Yeah. So I'm a certified parent educator. And one of the things, especially as Black people, in the way that we parent, you can tell is rooted in trauma and fear. And so, you may have even had people say, well, I'm going to correct them because those white people, if they correct them, they're going to correct them harder.
Right.
That's from trauma, right? That's from a trauma reaction. And versus that, so there, and some of that comes from slavery, right? Because from when we were enslaved, if we were to step out of line or misbehave, those consequences would be detrimental. So, if I'm going to whoop you, that's better than the overseeing whipping you as a parent. But we just continue to bring that into now it's 2022 and we're not enslaved.
So with that being said, right? So, and literally from the police department, I've seen people get whipped with extension cords, billy clubs. I'm not talking from the police billy club. I'm talking
from their parents.
Or the mental psychological shock when look, go pick out your own switch, I'm gonna whip you with. What?
Yes.
Go get this switch or whatever that may be. Or you're saying that all goes into those traumas or traumatic experiences?
Yes. But all of those traumatic experiences, especially that type of corporal punishment, most of it is rooted in our enslavement. And that's how we were disciplined, and that's how we thought discipline was supposed to work. And that's how we continue to pass that on to our children. Back to, like you say, you were working with the police department. In that area, you would think that, the theory is that children who are whipped or spanked, they don't misbehave. But like you said, most of the people you were arresting had been whipped or spanked as a child.
Yeah. Yes.
So that trauma the theory doesn't hold up, that if I whip my child, they won't be arrested. And the reality is they're more likely to act out. So most of the people who have been arrested or detained have.
So wait, to empower our family, right? And
Mhm.
what you're saying, because I want to make sure this is clear with everybody, because a lot of
Yes,
times people will say, "Oh, Dr. Saraparu is that's not it," this and that.
not yet.
And
The doctor is low. So thank you for giving it to me. It's
no,
low.
I know
It's not
it's
there
low,
yet.
but I want to make sure they know who we
It's
talking
low.
to.
I gotta expect the graduation date. It's not there yet.
Well, I'm gonna still call you Dr. Saraparu. I don't care what the papers of work
No,
say.
we gotta wait. We gotta wait. Go ahead. All right, I'm listening.
But no, seriously. So inside of that, to educate people, a lot of times they will say, "Oh, if you just, discipline your no, I won't say discipline, beat your child or spank your
Mhm.
child, this will curb their behavior to make sure that they're going in the right direction." But you're saying your research found that is actually the opposite.
It's actually the opposite. And so those theories don't hold up. And anybody who wants to read the research, they'll see that that doesn't hold up at all. Actually, loving your child, providing them a safe space, making them feel important is much more valuable than any type of spanking.
Oh wow. So there's a lot of people they need to listen to just this part of the podcast.
I said we could come back and do a whole nother parenting podcast because that's a whole
I'm writing
nother
it down.
that's a whole nother conversation that we could have. But
I'm
trauma, yeah,
writing it
trauma
down.
it just changes you in a way. Back to trauma. Trauma just changes your brain in a way. And then a good example is, I experienced Hurricane Katrina, you as well. Um, that even though you say, when I went through that, I'm fine. It didn't, it affected me, but I wouldn't use the word traumatized. Except every time there's a weather report, right?
You get a little
I'm
nervous.
hypervigilant. I have a little nervousness, a hyperstartle reflex, and I'm going to pass that on to my children who didn't experience Hurricane Katrina. That hurricanes are dangerous, and you need to be alert and aware. They're going to pass that on to their children, and then it's going to change, just how we respond to things. So that's what trauma does. It changes you.
When you're saying that and you start and just using Hurricane Katrina, and we have all the horrific stories and all of that stuff. But inside of that, trauma and PTSD, how does those relate? Because I believe in some ways, me being a police officer for a while, I had
Mhm.
PTSD. Not maybe in a massive sense, but in
Mhm.
some things you kind of still have some things that you kind of just kind of jerk with.
Yeah, and you bring up an excellent point because just because you've experienced the trauma does not mean you'll develop PTSD. So the immediate reaction after a trauma is that I am traumatized, but a post-traumatic stress disorder is a prolonged and beyond what we would consider acceptable or reasonable experience of the reactions of a trauma. So in the immediate instance of, like I said, Hurricane Katrina, we all were adjusting to our new reality and having a response to the trauma that continued and prolonged symptoms of the is what would be determined PTSD. And so you may have had a trauma reaction and you may have been on the spectrum, but not all the way where you would say full-blown PTSD. The main thing about PTSD is how does it impact your ability to function. And if you were functioning still, and that might be one of those things where you're like, I have a hyperstartle reflex, I'm jumpy, but overall, I'm
That's right.
experiencing life normally. You don't have PTSD, but you definitely had a trauma exposure and a trauma reaction.
Right. That's right.
Right.
No, I agree to that. I definitely agree. So, what would I say? How can people deal? What did I write down? How can people actually deal with what is PTSD, trauma? What are some tools that they can actually use to actually start, dealing with whether it's a trauma or PTSD or however it works?
So the first thing I would say is correctly labeling your experience. And because when we
Ooh.
minimize an experience, then we're less likely to take the steps to deal with our experience. So there's, again, levels to trauma. I want everyone to consider trauma on a spectrum. So it's not just, I have PTSD. I go from micro trauma, the jokes, the little insults. Sometimes, especially as Black people in the workplace, microaggressions in the workplace, things like that. Those are small, but over time and accumulated, those can become traumatic. Um, all the way up until full-blown PTSD.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing you have to do is correctly label so that you know, right? Whatever I'm experiencing, this is traumatic to me. We don't have to try to compare trauma, right? So you were a police officer during Hurricane Katrina. Obviously, I was not. We're going to have totally different experiences during Katrina. Yours is going to be more traumatic. Does that negate mine? No. But that's what we often do. We'll say, well, Stanley really got the worst of it. So mine must not be traumatic. So that's the next step. I'm going to label mine for what it was and what I experienced it without trying to compare or contrast to anyone else's experience. And just because we had the same event doesn't mean we had the same experience of that event, right? Because how we perceive life and is also going to play a part into it. And then I'm going to look at the coping skills I already have and see which ones I can use. I'm going to be intentional about it. So I'm not just going to, just hope it gets better. Time does a lot of things, but time does not heal trauma. We just pack it up and carry it with us. So I'm going to be intentional about trying to heal my trauma. I'm going to look at, humor. Is this trauma? Will humor work for this trauma? Let me laugh at this thing. Oh no, this one is bigger than humor. I need something more. I might have to talk to a therapist. I'm big on therapy. I am biased because it's how I earn my living. But I think that we all can use therapy. I think it's beneficial for all of us.
Can I stop? Can I pause you there?
Yes, you can.
I just want to dive into that, right? I know you're a big proponent of therapy. I know who you are actually. So if I'd have come to you, I know what the therapy gonna be. Mm-hmm. But most of the people that I've spoken to about therapy, they run from therapy because the counselor or the therapist ain't worth 2 cents. And I wanted to say something else, but I think my mom is gonna watch this one. So they're not worth 2 cents in terms of that. So how do you convince, whether it's a police officer, a military officer, or somebody that's just in these streets that want to go to counseling, but their first exposure was somebody that wasn't worth 2 cents?
So I find that most people have never had an exposure, an actual exposure. Most people have a story of a friend who went to a therapist. Okay. They don't have that many. I'm not going to say they don't have bad therapists because I know that's the reality of any profession. I don't think they have that many bad therapists where people need to be afraid. But just like anybody else that you're hiring, I've been to a bad hairdresser before. I didn't stop getting my hair done. I changed hairdressers. Same thing with a therapist. Also interviewing. When I go to a hairdresser, I say, do you know how to work with naturally curly hair? Show me some pictures. I'm going to follow your Instagram. Same thing with therapists. Interview me. Ask me questions. What's your therapeutic approach? What modalities do you use? You don't have to necessarily give up therapy in general because you had one bad experience with a therapist.
So do you think that goes into the trauma?
I think it goes into the belief that therapy doesn't work. So we go in with that belief that this therapist isn't going to be able to help me. Therapy doesn't work. We find the worst therapist. You go and say, do you take Medicaid? And, oh, that's the one I'm going to. No shade to those people who take Medicaid. And then, we don't want to invest in it. So if you call me and I tell you my price and you say, oh, that's a little high, let me see what I can get for free. Well, you might have a poor experience with that free. But it's just like if you went to go get a free haircut, you probably wouldn't get the best haircut.
I'm not going.
And I compare hair in therapy because the prices are very similar. To all ladies who are listening, you know how much you can pay for your hair. That's about what you're going to pay for a therapist. You go every week to your hairdresser. You have to go every week to your therapist. We can put it into our budget, But I think it's a lot of times it's the excuse and not the real reason.
I agree. Okay, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. I like the way we're taking the segues.
Yeah, I want to say. So back to what are some things we can do, or how can people deal with the trauma? I know you was breaking those things down, but when you said that about therapists, there's a lot of people that I've, now I don't have the research like you, but that was some of the comments that people talk.
Oh, that's a common comment. And I also get, I'm Black, I got Jesus, and I would, Jesus created me. I'm not going to take Jesus from you. Actually, I'm going to use Jesus to support you in your therapeutic goals because I'm a Christian myself. So that's actually better. It makes my job easy. If you really know the word, then it makes my job easier because a lot of therapy is grounded in those type of things, such as the Bible. So, but if you're not going to get therapy, there are lots of great self-help books. We're in the age of technology. There is a YouTube video for everything. including how to deal with trauma. Find it.
Oh,
I don't know. I can't recommend you one specifically, but I can guarantee you when you do it, you're gonna get millions of hits. Their podcasts. There are lots of things dealing with trauma.
speaking
The
of
first one is
podcasts, wait, I heard something. I don't know if this to be true, but I heard something through our network. I don't know if this is true or not, but I heard something.
so what
I
you heard
heard
is I'm
something.
starting a podcast and it's called Therapy Get You Some,
Are you
because I
serious?
want us all to get us some therapy. So you
When you
can follow
starting this
me on.
podcast? Because I'm gonna be your
You're
first.
gonna be my guest. You might be my guest, but we display therapy so people can see what it feels like, right? So they can hear a therapeutic session and make it more make them more comfortable to get on that couch.
Yeah, they can come sit on my sofa because I
Now,
believe
the
in
truth be
mentoring.
told, in my office, first of all, I'm doing therapy virtually now, so you can be on your couch, your bed, wherever you feel comfortable, in the park, at the mall. That's up to you. But even in my office, there's not a couch. I'm not that therapist. That's generally that type of therapist where you're going to lay down and I'm going to, sit behind the couch. That's television therapy.
Hey, we might want television therapy. You go
Television
get you a
therapy is what
couch. I'm
people.
not coming to your office until you have a couch.
I have a nice little love seat. You can get comfortable on it, but don't try to lay down because I don't want your head grease on my sofa pillows. Sit up.
You that mean counselor.
No, I'm not mean. I'm not mean at all. I'm real. Everything I do is real, and so it's gonna always be real talk.
So why is trauma so suffocating? Let me ask that. Why is trauma so suffocating?
Because, like I said earlier, by definition, it just overwhelms the body's ability, the brain's ability to cope. It's one of those, like you, as humans, we try to think of every possible scenario. One of the
Right.
biggest things as humans is we try to avoid danger at all costs. And so we think our way, if this happens, I'm going to do this. We think, and trauma comes in and blows your mind. Like, I never thought. It's not just, it's in that relationship where you're like, I thought you could do a lot of things, but I never thought you would do that. Or I
Right.
never thought. So that's what trauma is. It just blows our mind and our systems shut down. We throw everything at it and it's just like, nope, it's bigger than that. It's bigger than that. And if your brain screams at you the whole time after the event, that happened, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the reality of what happened is so overwhelming that we try to avoid it.
That's one of the things I do a lot of, and I'm fortunate, I'm really, really fortunate enough to do this. I've been fortunate enough to mentor people and coach and all that stuff, right?
Mhm.
I'm not you, right? I'm gonna leave that professional side to you, right? But one of the things I do notice that I don't think a lot of people take the time to get to know someone, really get to know them.
Mhm.
Not the fictitious, hey Candice, how are you? Okay, all right, great. And then start saying all of the stuff you need or want or desire and all of that stuff.
Mhm.
I believe one of the things that would help people overall, as I'm thinking about it, is when you're coaching, mentoring, whether it's a baseball coach or a basketball coach or somebody that just coaching a business person or success coach or career. I think you have to get to know that person in depth. I mean, that's my personal opinion. You have to get to know that person in depth because then you can guide them in a great way. But if I just say, oh, hey Candice, how are you? All right, great, thank you, and then walk out, I don't think there's no way in the world I can offer any advice or coach them in a proper way if they're not, as in your words, being real.
Right.
Do you
Right.
have any challenges when people come to your door, if you will? And I say door, but you understand what I mean? Being your client, but then they're, well, I didn't really do that. Well, I'm okay. Do you have any of those challenges?
So I think that's just a normal thing that, just whenever we introduce ourselves to somebody, it's like, peeling an onion. You're not going to come in and just expose yourself immediately. There's layers and a trained therapist understands that in the beginning, there's phases in therapy. In the beginning, you're going to want me to see you in a positive light. And you're going to test the relationship to see that if you tell me something, how will I react? And then as we get deeper into the therapy, you're going to feel more comfortable in exposing some of the truths. And then I'm going to help you see things that differently as a therapist that you may have not seen. And so I think I talked to you about this before, the joke of, did I tell you about the time I almost died? And then the person gets into the story, did I tell you about the time my mom almost killed me? And then they get into the story and it's like, wait, your mama really almost killed you. That's traumatic, but you were telling it as a humorous story. Let's back up, let's retell a story, and let's talk about it real, right? Because as a child, that shaped you. If you knew the person who gave birth to you could beat you to the point where you almost died, how can you trust anybody in this world? And so that may be why you're having relationship issues now, right?
Yes.
Because at 5, you learned that people can harm you, and you have carried that with you forever. And that's what trauma does. It just shapes everything. It changes everything about you, and it causes issues in every aspect of your life until you heal it.
How much trust do you deal with individuals in building that trust? It's interesting. I had a conversation with somebody who was just talking about trust, but how do you build that trust, from your standpoint, that they can begin to reveal some of their deepest, darkest pains?
I think the biggest thing is just me being me. Like I come in 100% open, 100% showing you who I am, 100% non-judgmental. And then my light is there. And so I'm a person that's big on feeling energies. You can feel my energy that I really do care about your healing. I'm invested in your healing in a way you may have never had anybody else make you feel, to a point where you're like, okay, I know she's going to be here with me through this ride, right? And I don't want you to tell me your trauma on the first day because I haven't given you any tools. So that's the other thing, is that I'm going to build you up to the point, and you're going to be able to trust me that I'm here, I'm with you, I'm holding your hand, but you're healing yourself.
That's right. That's right. I think I'm just saying, just I know you. So it's kind of a imbalance. I know how you come to the table and what you bring, but I don't, for like our family that's out there listening, I think a lot of times they're kind of pushed back. And I'm gonna say this, especially from our Black family, we ain't trying to go see no damn counselor. Go count, like you just said, go counsel with Jesus, or go talk to the pastor who don't have any type of counseling experiences. Now, I do understand you got some pastors that have counseling, and I get all of that. I'm not talking about them. That's far and few in between. But you just go talk to the pastor, or go talk to so-and-so, and they have Candice. They have none.
I'm stepping so far away from that. I'm gonna sidestep and say that I think that is shifting for us. And I like that the narrative is shifting, and I want to be part of that, which is why I'm doing the podcast, Therapy Get You Some, because I want to be part of that narrative, that we shift from that. Black people, not my entire caseload, but most of the people who I am seeing as a clinician, and then throughout my career, they've been Black people. And so it's not that we don't go. When we do go to therapy, we're real hush-hush about it. So it's always refreshing when I hear somebody say, my therapist said that. I was like, oh, yes. But it's very few and far between when people will admit we're going to therapy. And we also go at the last minute. So a lot of times, that's my biggest wish, that you would come sooner, because you've been carrying this for so long that, your back is broken. And even though I can help you heal, it's going to take a while before you can stand upright. So you don't have to carry this pain forever. We're here, therapists, we exist.
That is wonderful. What can we do as a family? All of the people that's listening all over the country, what can we do to begin to continue to change that narrative where people will go to get help? What can we do?
So this is one of the times where I don't think humor is the best place at all. There's no place for it. When people tell you things like, you need help, and they laugh, and you need help, you need to go get. No, really, more seriously, like, therapy might benefit you, and say it in a serious way, right? I love you, and I think that you would benefit from therapy. Even with my friends, I'm not a therapist 24/7. I'm a real person. So, even with my friends, it's one thing for my friends to tell me their problems, but I'm not your therapist. So let me, point you in a direction of where therapy may be, available for you, so that we're not just carrying this around. And then if you're getting therapy, praise it. Don't be ashamed to tell people, hey, you know what? The person that you see today is a person that was transformed by therapy. And that might benefit you, benefit other people.
That's deep. I'm excited.
But wait, Stan, I can't leave till I say this, because this is probably the most important thing we can do as a people. We can stop traumatizing each other, right? So we can recognize when we're playing a role in the traumas that we have continued to perpetuate and stop it. And that's where we're going to talk about that more in the parenting issue, because that's where we're doing it at, right? So, we have to stop. We have to break those cycles of continuing the trauma and then telling people to get healed versus just let's not be traumatized, right? Dads, don't leave your children. That's traumatic.
Yeah.
Stay in their lives, fight, and I hear lots of stories as a parent educator of people who say, their mama don't want me there. Fight for it, because that's a trauma that your child will end up in therapy for. If they're lucky, they'll end up in therapy for it. Otherwise, they'll just wreak havoc.
That part is so true. For the men, shout out to the men out there. Let me tell y'all something. I don't care if baby mama drama come into effect. Don't leave your child. Don't leave your child. Even if whatever you do, keep fighting. Keep fighting.
Right. Keep
Every
fighting.
man is not a bad man. Even though sometimes people want to, give that stigma. And every black male is not a horrible individual.
Oh no, they have wonderful black fathers. I had one of the best that God ever created. So I know, and so I know that black fathers exist and they are important. Let's stop beating our children. Now, if you feel like physical discipline is necessary in your home, I'm not going to take that from you. But we all know where the line is crossed, and child protection needs to be called. Let's not cross the line.
It's a difference between spanking and beating.
Yes. And we know it. And so we need to stop doing that, right? We need to stop neglecting our kids. I talk to children all the time who say, my mom won't put the phone down to help me with their homework. At 5, that is traumatic. I need help. I'm looking at the person who needs to give me help and they're not helping me.
Right.
As an adult, that's not traumatic at all. I'm a grown-up. But at 5, the only person I have in my world is not giving me the attention that I need. That's trauma. Micro trauma, but trauma.
Ooh, I forgot to ask you about micro trauma, but yeah,
That's okay.
Mm-hmm. You got to come back.
Well, I'm excited to come back. Yeah, put me down on the schedule again. I would love to come back.
Yeah, because this parenting thing, we might be 5 hours just on this parenting thing.
Yeah, we might have to break that down into sections.
Listen, Candice, I know where you are and I know where you're from, but I don't care. You a guest. So you got to shout out all of the people in NOLA, right? You do know that, right?
No, I didn't know that part. Okay, wait, I can't.
Yeah, get yourself together.
Shout out NOLA as a group, or do I have to give individual names? Because
no, I'm gonna give it to you. And if you mess this up, I'm taking your NOLA card. Okay. I'm taking your card.
I might have to give it to you. Okay, let me see.
You ready?
I'm ready.
As soon as I do it, then you do it after me, okay?
Okay.
Why?
Oh, why?
You know what?
I'm bougie. You already know that.
I know, but no.
You want me to?
No,
I can't do the bougie wine.
No.
That's about good as you gonna get. I can't turn up on it. It's middle of the day, Wednesday.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. I had to do the wine. No.
Yeah, it sounds real wine terrible.
Yeah, go ahead. Don't put this. Can I say delete this?
No.
No, it's too late. It's too late.
Listen, all seriously though. So before we close out, Candice, do me a favor.
Yes.
What are some powerful advice that you would like to give to our family that's out there in the audience? Just our whole entire audience. What are some powerful advice you would like to give about the whole episode of trauma and how to deal with it, or however you want to flow with that? Just share with them.
Oh, that's a big one. There's a lot of advice. The main thing I want you to leave with is to recognize that it's okay to admit that you've had a traumatic experience and to label it as such. You don't, there's strength in that. There's nothing wrong with saying that was traumatic or I had this experience and it traumatized me. And in recognizing that how trauma changes you and then go get healing. That's the last thing. Just go get the healing. Wherever you find healing at, therapy, in your church, in your partner, in your friendships, find healing, find peace. That's important.
That I think that is, I think that's powerful. I think a lot of times, even though we've been knowing each other all our lives, I don't think people understand how much we care that they're healed. I don't think they
Yes.
understand how much we literally want to help our family, friends, relatives, or whomever to get to a space where they have that peace. And that's who Candice is. Guys, listen, if you're in the NOLA area, anywhere, matter of fact, if you anywhere, because we can do it now virtually. If you got Zoom or one of the virtual platforms where you can holler at my sister, please do. She is truly, truly an authentic, caring, and genuine individual. And when you get into the whole counseling episodes and everything, you'll see how powerful she really is. So whatever it is, make sure you contact her. Candice, please share with the people how they can contact you. And don't give no crazy emails either. Not
So it's
boompow.com.
therapygys@gmail.com. Therapy,
Say it
get me
again.
some. THERAPYGYS@gmail.com. And you can also follow me on Instagram, therapygys. That is a new Instagram because this podcast is new. So don't look at it and say, oh, wait, she don't have any posts yet. They're coming. They're coming.
Okay. Don't
Okay.
put me on there, Tom. This, let me put the crazy
Well,
man
I'm
first.
putting yours is probably gonna be the first post. Had the best talk today with Stanley D. This is inspiring. Stanley, you're inspiring everybody. Thank you so much. Thank you for
Now, I
inviting me
appreciate
on.
you. When you podcast starting?
The launch date is TBA, but look for it. I'm gonna say the hope is the first week of April. But as I'm starting it, there may be some things that delay, but in April.
Okay, don't worry. I'm gonna put you on my calendar so I can make sure we gonna change some of the words that you were saying. But we'll get into that later. Now you're gonna roll into my side. Now we gonna get some different things together. Okay.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
FYI, family, be on the lookout. She's gonna do a book, so be on the lookout. That's gonna be coming soon as well. Can't wait to read it. Candice, love you, baby. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much.
I appreciate you. Now I ain't gonna talk about you, but oh wait. Show your shirt.
Oh, I'm billing you for this conversation. Yeah. Therapy is not free. It's not. And saying they expect a bill for this in the mail. No, I'm just
I'm
joking.
sure. I'm sure it's coming.
This is going to be a return that you join me on my podcast as a guest. That's all I'm
You know I
asking.
got you.
That's
You
all I'm
know I
asking.
got you. You know I got you. So listen, guys, we're about to roll on out of here. Special thanks and shout out to Candice Saraparu. We appreciate everything that you've done, continue to do for the community and for people as a whole. If you want to get in touch with her, she already gave you all of her contact information. If you can't remember or you confused, just hit me up. I'll make sure you get directly to her, and then you guys can do what it is that y'all have to do from a counseling standpoint or a social work standpoint or whatever it is that y'all want to do. And listen, guys, when y'all see this on YouTube, no, I'm not setting y'all up with her. It's a no. It's a hard no. So let's make sure we understand. It's a hard no. That's my sister, and it's a no for y'all already. All right. So let's roll on out of here. Family, if y'all want to hit me up, go to my website, let's talk with stanleydoucette.com. It has all of the previous episodes. You're going to have this episode on there and everything else in between. So I love that. Go to my YouTube channel. My faces and my reactions sometimes are priceless. So just go there. If you want a great smile, just go there. We have a lot of fun and we're going to do what we do. Don't forget to follow me, like me, join me, post, share, all of those other good things on all of the social media platforms. And lastly, if you want to hit me up directly, hit me up on Gmail at let's talk with Stanley D at gmail.com. That's LETSTALKWITHSTANLEY D as in David at gmail.com. Whether you want to join us, whether you want to be a guest, or whether you just want to get in touch with Candice Saraparu about counseling, just hit me up and we'll go from there. Peace and love, family. Y'all know we do. We got the best intro and outro music on the planet. So we're about the second line. Never mind. It's okay. It's okay. Love you. Thank you. Y'all be good. I'll see y'all next week. God bless. Y'all have a great day and see y'all next week. Peace. We out.